why the city waterfront? Well, we have a going concern with our finances, and we have to look at new ways of raising revenue for the city. And when I came in as mayor, one of the first things I wanted to move was the waterfront, and I had to get members up to speed on seeing the opportunity. There was some resistance initially about moving with it, but once members embraced it, they understood that, yes, this is a potential source of revenue uptake for the city that would basically give us much more economic certainty going into the future. And with the unresolved situation with our wharfage and some of the aspects of going concern, we had to be proactive. And we were still being proactive about various things.
So is the waterfront,
city waterfront,
the city waterfront now providing you any extra revenue as a result of this agreement?
But one thing that's clear,
Yeah.
when things do kick in, that basically any revenue that we have will be basically provided for in lieu of the development taking place in the interim. In other words, even as the development takes place, any revenue that we're having now will still be available as the waterfront is developed.
Right, but at what point then do you begin to get revenue that replaces
Sharing
the
the
loss?
leases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me explain it by making a comparison between this development and that of the City Hall car park. That lease agreement on the City Hall car park requires that when the developer takes over the site, the revenue that City Hall earned prior to the engagement, we would not lose that. The developer will be obligated to compensate us for that lost revenue. The same would be true of the waterfront. During development, whichever portion is being developed, then we would receive revenue comparable to the lost revenue. At the completion, then the city will share in the revenue of the new entities that are developed on that waterfront. So we're looking at creating revenue-generating entities, which will be significantly far more beneficial to us than what we currently have there.
Which is
if
a
you look
public
at things
toilet
like
and
public
parking.
toilets, a ferry terminal, a customs longhouse, they don't generate a lot of revenue for the city. So we certainly will not be putting back anything which is comparable to do that and looking for the same types of revenue.
And I think
So
that-
I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
What you're
But I
saying,
say-
let me just repeat what I understand
Yes.
first, and then we can move on. That there'll be no loss of revenue to the city while development is going on.
That is correct.
At some point, you'll actually begin to make more revenue.
That's
Correct.
correct.
When will that point happen?
Once
the new development actually starts being built.
Okay, what,
As it
how
comes
many,
online.
can you
It
give me
comes
an
online.
idea of how long that will be from now?
We're still in the planning. You have to remember, no physical plans at all have been drawn up on this. The only thing that has been provided are concepts, okay?
Yeah, I understand
And
that.
that includes all the other examples that I've given you before. And we have a public vetting that has to go through, even on the draft environmental impact study that's before planning right now. So there's a huge consultative process that has to take place on work for engineers, architects, lawyers, on different sections of this plan. It's going to be wide-based, inclusive of a lot of Bermudian companies. This is not going to be a case where an external development entity cuts Bermudian opportunities out of building, working. We're creating
Designing,
jobs. Every
Yeah,
aspect
yes,
of this is
of
going to
course.
be.
In answer to Ian's
So-
question, I mean, we're talking a couple of years.
it
It
could,
depends
Well,
how
give us
fast
a
they-
range.
Well, it depends how fast everybody can get on the same page, both nationally and with local government, on bringing this plan forward.
Under
We're the-
ideal
we're the same-
conditions.
under ideal conditions.
Right away.
Yeah. Under
Well,
ideal
you
conditions,
need to build first.
sure.
No, I mean, Bill, but I'm saying ideal
Design.
about moving it forward
Yeah.
right away, because the financing was in place in January
January.
and fell away because of government's reluctance to vet.
And when we say fell away, that is not the interest, but the ability to transact business right there and then. Because government made an announcement at that time, and now what's happened is that interest was on hold until we can advance the process. And what that will mean, the first thing that happens is you start to create concepts, you start to have the public consultation, you start getting architects and engineers and other people involved in starting to craft what will be concepts of something that's more tangible, different amenities, So that's revenue being generated for those who are on the receiving end of being involved in that, engineering firms, architectural firms. And then things start to be submitted to the planning department. Sooner that happens, the bricks and mortar thing can start.
Okay, well, all that's going to take some time, and
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Yeah, and I
once the
gave
bricks
you-
and mortar starts,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're not all of a sudden going to start rolling in money, are you? You're not
No,
going to be
no,
making
no,
more
no,
money than
no.
you're making now.
That's right.
No.
So it creates,
So
in
that's,
the
I'm
first
asking you,
instance,
how much time will it take before there's additional
based
revenue
on
flowing
the,
into
the
coffers?
schedule from Allied, which was submitted in their submission, they were anticipating about a year in the first instance of getting things in the design process, and 18 months thereabouts to the first applications being submitted. So we are about 6 months into that period, seven months into that period of advancing that process. And that is, I say, 7 months that has been lost to that occurring because of the standoff between what the government wants to be involved in and what their desire was as of January of this year.
Okay, so
Now,
best case scenario would have been 2 years before you started seeing
I would say possibly 2 years.
a positive
2 years at
effect
the
on your
outside
finances.
to seeing actual things, happening on the waterfront.
And the positive effect on your finances.
Well, no,
'Cause
no.
that's,
Well,
That
no.
would take long.
Our finances will not have changed during that construction.
Okay.
So whatever revenue we're earning today, pre-construction,
Mhm.
will still be the same during construction.
Right.
It's
And I-
post-construction that our revenue changes significantly because you've got new entities, different types of
This is-
revenue
okay.
earning entities on that
And
waterfront.
we're going
and so we're
after-
talking, let's say, 3 to 5 years.
Long
Well, the
term.
whole project is scoped out to be anywhere from a 12 to 20-year project. Because
Sure.
what you don't want to do is
Overheat
to
the
undertake
economy.
what is potentially the largest development project in Bermuda's commercial, history, in quick order, overheat the economy in terms of the construction industry, and then drop it flat again. You want to phase it over a period of time so that you have phases of that development occurring, and it keeps the construction industry economy stimulated for a longer period of duration.
Do you really think the 6,000 unemployed people are concerned about overheating the economy right now?
No, their first priority is having a job and steady income. So,
Okay.
but with that said, you still have to be, as public stewards, mindful of what impact we have on the economy in any, large-scale way, and in a way that is detrimental to the long-term interests of our economy.
How much did you spend on that, that mayor's conference you went to earlier this year?
I don't know what the actual figure is, but I'm thinking eventually,
It was money well spent, I can say
Yeah.
that.
Could we get that
Look,
figure?
50,000?
yeah, we can get you
No,
50.
no, it's a small delegation of four, two councilors, I'm sorry, deputy mayor, two council members, and our secretary.
Anyway,
Money well spent.
that's not what we're
And-
here to talk
yes.
about.
And, no,
you-
we're
you
talking
can
about the
ask that.
financial situation of the city.
We're going out looking for business.
What were the benefits to the city and the bottom line?
If I might,
Yeah.
one of the things that we were able to do is network with the mayor's conference and potentially be the host site for their next annual conference next year, which could see in excess of 700 mayors plus delegations from not just North America, but from the Latin America, Caribbean, and
Africa.
African nations. So there is that opportunity, as well as other things that we're working on as a result of being in attendance there. What we have recognized is that we have to find new ways to advance the cause of the city and that of Bermuda at the same time. And this is one of them. So
Okay.
we see it as a positive investment that won't necessarily be seen to bear fruit immediately, but there's things in the works right now that are as a result of being in attendance there.
And I understand you're going to Colombia as well?
That
to
came
another
out of
conference?
that very thing, and that's...
Have you been, or you're
No, I
planning
have
to
not
go?
been myself.
Oh. When is the Colombia conference?
That'll be this week.
This is where you're going. When are you leaving?
They should be tomorrow.
Tomorrow. And how much is that costing?
We don't have the final, but that's, again, it's a reasonable investment. We are partnering with someone here on island as our delegation, you can call it chef de mission. He is a reputable representative of one of our biggest law firm, who's responsible for the incorporations of large numbers of businesses from that region. And he's created opportunities for us to go down there. And coincidentally, this conference is predicated on the countries that are very much like Bermuda, which have not been very much included in the growth of economies historically, but that with South America becoming a rapidly growing region, they want to reach out to those countries, and that includes Bermuda, to include us in the mix as they grow their businesses and become more international in where they do business. So it's an excellent opportunity for us. We look forward to positive results from that.
How many people are going to this conference?
There will be 5, and the government, we're excited about the opportunity as well, and they've reached out to us in tangible ways in which to show their presence at that conference as well.
Okay. Why does it take 5 councillors to go to the conference like that?
So it's a very large networking event, and I've attended many conferences in the past, and oftentimes you cannot be in attendance to all of the events as an individual. You'll find delegations come from representing their entities, companies, countries, to maximize the potential that exists at these types of conferences by having multiple individuals in different parts or seminars within those conferences to glean the most from it.
And you can't tell me how much it would cost?
We're not shy of sharing that, but I just don't have the numbers in front of me today. But it's not a very large number, because it is an economy which, if you compare their currency to ours, we get a fair amount of bang for our buck by going there.
You could get that for him once you're back.
Oh, yeah,
and
certainly.
calculated
Yeah, we
the
can get that for you.
expenses.
But range, 10,000, 20, 30,
I would say 20 is a better number.
approximately.
Yeah.
Right. The reports that we've had is regarding the Ombudsman's investigation. Is yourself, Mayor, and the Deputy have been accused of not cooperating with the Ombudsman.
Well, I've met with
Yes,
her
that's
twice.
right.
I don't think that's quite accurate, but I would say that at this time, because the matter's before the courts, let's let it proceed through there, and then I think you'll have all the answers you need on that particular issue.
Is it actually before the courts, or were you
is.
expecting it to
It
be
is.
before the courts? Okay.
It is.
Can you tell us then why? I mean, I've been sending numerous questions to your office about the waterfront, some governance issues, etc. Why has your policy been up till now not to actually respond to those questions?
I think the sensitivity, basically, we've been so involved in the process is that basically we wanted to basically take in-camera stances, but basically with more and more misinformation getting out there, I saw the final wisdom of clearing the air with media so that the answers could be given. And from the point of view of getting onto the day-to-day business and how it's been full on. So I don't have time necessarily to answer every specific journalist question at a time. It may seem obstructionist to you at the time, but that's not the intent. And I think from the point of view of going forward, you have much more open access. Our advice and our reasoning is basically we want to be open with the press, and so you'll find a different atmosphere on answering your questions going forward.
What is, how do you develop an environmental impact statement for something that is only conceptual?
I can answer.
Okay.
Sure.
I could answer you
Yeah.
too, but we'll
Well, there are 2 ways, there are 2 approaches. One is that oftentimes for large projects in Bermuda, the developer or potential developer will go away to an architect, spend a lot of money, submit it to planning, and probably have it rejected. You don't get a refund. Now, with something of this scale, you can actually get a very general environmental impact statement developed as to what will be the impact on the environment, society, business, all those things by having a large-scale development on the waterfront without having the specific design in mind. It has generalized massing of development in the area, and you get responses from the Department of Planning. Then you're able to better focus which direction you go in when it comes to actual design. And you better maximize your financial resources in that approach than in design and then getting the statement to match the design and then getting various forms of rejection or needing to amend things. And that can be a costly process, particularly in an economy where we're now struggling to find finances to grow our economy and pay our way. So this is how it's been approached. It's not it's not inconsistent with other places around the world. It may be unique to Bermuda because we don't do these types of developments, daily or yearly. It's a first. It's a first.
And I think
Not
there's
one
a-
of those conventional practices.
Well, not, I
Not
wouldn't say
yet.
convention. Keep in mind that these things are done daily in other places. This is a first in what? Our era for Bermuda. So do you spend the money first on design concepts, get an EIA to match that design, submit it, have it rejected, or potentially rejected, and then go back to the drawing board again? Or do you just get a generalized environmental impact statement, which talks to what I've just said, which
Yeah.
is the general scope of massing of development
And
in
its
that
impact
area,
on the
and its
environment.
impact on the environment and society and all the other things, and then get the comments from the professional technical people in the Department of Planning. Then you go back and you fine tune your what you're capable of doing.
I think
So
there's
that's
a-
where
yeah.
that's where we're at.
I think there's another aspect that we shouldn't overlook, and that's the right of other interest groups that don't have interest in necessarily buildings, environmental groups that have a keen sensitivity about the impact of a build would have on a marine environment. So there are other factors outside just development interests that need to come in to be considered and be consulted. And I think that's the scope of an environmental impact study. Will take that in as a process and dialogue
Yeah.
goes out.
Just to give you one specific area of that statement, one thing it looks at is because Hamilton Harbor is a sort of closed harbor, water comes in generally in one direction and flows out the same way. So what happens with certain types of development? Well, you could spend the money designing a type of development and then find that that has a negative effect
We're gonna have to
on
wrap up in a minute.
on the harbor. Or you could do a EIA and then find that a certain type of development is the best way to go because of the nature of the harbor. And that's part of what was done. They did sediment testing, the salinity, and all the kind of oxygenation in the area, and they did all those things. Then you can go away and say, okay, here's where we are with the harbor. Now, what's the best type of development to place in the harbor with that in mind? And that's part of what an in-principle EIA or EIS can achieve for you before you've spent a lot of money on design and hard design and then have it potentially rejected.
So will there be another AIA
Yes,
when
there
the
will be.
design is done?
That's correct.
Okay.
So this will be a document which will morph over time.
The RFP, what was that process like? What did the RFP actually consist of?
It was very brief because there's been a lot of history here at City Hall of attempts on the waterfront. We simply asked for interested parties that are willing to partner with the city on advancing the waterfront project to make their submissions to us.
So that ad in the newspaper,
Yes.
that was the RFP.
That is correct.
Is that convention as well?
There is no blueprint for how that process is done at City Hall, and coincidentally, it was the first for City Hall.